the most dangerous neighborhoods in Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore is a vibrant city located on the Chesapeake Bay, known for its rich history, diverse culture, and iconic attractions. As the birthplace of the national anthem, Baltimore boasts historic landmarks like Fort McHenry, the Inner Harbor, and the cobblestone streets of Fells Point. The city is also celebrated for its thriving art scene, world-class institutions like the Johns Hopkins University and Hospital, and its famous blue crab cuisine. However, Baltimore faces significant challenges, including a high crime rate which is consistently above the national average and persistent socioeconomic struggles in many neighborhoods. Over 11,000 cars were stolen in 2023, with more than 400 stolen in the first 20 days of 2024, highlighting ongoing problems with property crime. Issues such as poverty, systemic inequality, and underfunded schools contribute to the city's difficulties. According to analysis of FBI data, the city's violent crime rate stands at 15.55 incidents per 1,000 residents, compared to the national average of 4 per 1,000 residents.
Ordeal, Baltimore City Police didn't release many updates, but people who live here told us a man was inside with children.
I just hope and pray that those babies make it out safe.
Thank you.
That flashbang creating a chaotic scene. As you saw, Avatar Burnett was there the moment all of that unfolded.
Berea. Berea is a neighborhood in the East District of Baltimore. Its boundaries are the south side of Sinclair Lane, the east side of Milton Avenue, the west side of Edison Highway, and the north side of Biddle Street. Berea crime rates are 195% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Berea are 570% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 15 chance of becoming a victim of crime. The area represents one of the last land pockets to be developed within the old 1851 city boundaries. Berea remained largely undeveloped until after World War I, due to its use as brickyards. In the 1920s, the housing development surged with the construction of daylight-style homes, featuring front porches and floor plans designed to maximize natural light. These homes, influenced by early 20th century suburban trends, appealed to Bohemian Czechoslovakian immigrant families who had originally settled near Johns Hopkins Hospital in the late 19th century. There were also many Irish and Italian newcomers, all of whom attended the Roman Catholic St. Catherine of Siena Church, and many of whose children went to St. Catherine's School.
We're talking about the epidemic of gun violence. It continues to plague our city. In just the last day, 3 people were killed, at least 9 people were hurt. A mass shooting last night that we reported on at this hour in East Baltimore happened in the city's Eastern District, where a majority of the murders happened in just the last couple of months.
WMER2 News' Ray Strickland begins our team coverage tonight. He's live for us at Baltimore City Police Headquarters. Ray, among these mass shootings, been several shootings just a block away. All of this seems to be happening in the same area, Ray.
Yeah, Kelly, just a block away from there on East Hoffman Street, there's been 4 people shot in at least 3 shootings on that one street alone since September 13th. If you include that mass shooting, there's been a total of 9 people shot in less than 30 days. 2 of the victims died. That's just 2 blocks. But throughout the city's Eastern District, the rise of murders has many people living in that area fearing for their lives.
Children playing on a swing set at a local park, parents enjoying the weather with their kids, and Baltimore police detectives processing a shooting scene nearby from the day before. It's an ordinary Thursday here in East Baltimore, where crime and the lives of community members intersect so often it now feels like a way of life. Neighbors say the violence here in the 1200 block of North Patterson Park Avenue and East Preston Street, the scene of Wednesday's mass shooting, is nonstop.
While the neighborhood has faced significant challenges, there have been ongoing efforts to revitalize and stabilize Berea. These include community-led initiatives, nonprofit organizations, and city programs aimed at addressing housing blight, improving public safety, and fostering economic development. The decline of Baltimore's Berea neighborhood can be attributed to a complex interplay of historical, economic, and social factors. During the mid-20th century, Berea, like much of Baltimore, was heavily reliant on industrial and manufacturing jobs. As these industries declined or relocated, the neighborhood faced widespread unemployment and economic instability. This economic downturn was compounded by significant population shifts, including white flight following desegregation and the departure of middle-class black families seeking better opportunities elsewhere. These shifts resulted in a loss of economic and social capital, leaving Berea increasingly isolated. Upton is a neighborhood in the western section of Baltimore, roughly between Fremont Avenue and McCullough Street, extending from Dolphin Street to Bloom Street. Its main artery is Pennsylvania Avenue. At the turn of the 20th century, Upton was among the wealthiest African American neighborhoods in the United States. In 1884, the Pennsylvania Avenue commuter rail station was established on the Baltimore and Potomac Railroad, further connecting the area. In the early 1900s, Pennsylvania Avenue was the premier shopping and cultural hub for black Baltimoreans, inspiring comparisons to Lenox Avenue in Harlem. It featured a vibrant mix of professionals, including doctors and lawyers, along with retailers catering to middle-class and upscale clientele. The avenue was also a center for entertainment, hosting jazz clubs, dance halls, theaters, and other institutions that served the black community. Upton was home to notable figures like Cab Calloway, who grew up in the neighborhood, and Eubie Blake, who made his debut performance in a club along Pennsylvania Avenue. The Royal Theater, located at the intersection of Pennsylvania and Lafayette, became a cornerstone of the Chitlin Circuit, attracting legendary performers and audiences alike. Many legends performed at the Royal Theater, including acts such as Louis Armstrong, Nat King Cole, Red Fox, James Brown, Diana Ross, and many more. Upton played a pivotal role in both local and national civil rights movements. The neighborhood hosted visits from influential leaders such as Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Marcus Garvey, who spoke at its prominent churches. Additionally, the Baltimore chapter of the NAACP was established in Upton during its development, further cementing the neighborhood's legacy as a hub of activism and progress.
Quite a lengthy list for a city that has about 15,000 vacant homes.
Right, yeah, and we are a block away from Abijoy on South Calhoun Street. And you'll notice this house right here behind me caught fire just on Saturday, 2 days before that fatal fire on Stricker Street. It also a vacant building, but firefighters tell us really the only difference was the floors didn't cave in on this one. In theory, vacant homes should be boarded and secure, but we have found that's not always the case, leading to other dangers that in and around vacant buildings. 15,000.
It's sad, actually.
That's how many current vacant buildings the city tracks.
You take the vakes away, you take the crime value down, basically.
The Stricker Street property had been vacant since 2010, the latest of a long line of fires at vacant buildings, but that's just the start.
Nobody knows somebody is there until they enter the house or something.
Just around the corner from City Fire Station 8 here in West Baltimore, this entire block of North Gilmore Street is scheduled for demolition. Still, many of the homes are not secure. You can actually look directly into many of these vacant buildings. These homes are really open to the elements and open to people, and in some cases, the boards have been pried right off.
You can easily just walk inside of here and just be upstairs chilling or something.
At this home, a water leak has caused icicles to form out front and on the basement bed. You can see from the exposed window. In 2020, a body was found inside a vacant property here on Argyle Avenue in West Baltimore. And city police tell me that they don't track every body found, but they do when it results in homicide investigations. And dating back 5+ years, we've had 22 homicides in or on vacant properties. On property or near, the city has long pointed to the sheer presence of vacant buildings as a cause for crime.
If you look at the map of where the murders are, the most violent crime is in the areas with most vacant.
The implementation of the National Housing Act in Baltimore around the 1960s and 1970s designated large zones of land for public housing. This resulted in the construction of Murphy Homes and McCullough Homes, with the McCullough Homes being featured later in the TV show The Wire as the Pit. While intended to address the problem of crowded homes and poor conditions throughout Upton and Druid Heights, the construction of these projects also resulted in the demolition of much of Upton's historic architecture, including the Royal Theater in 1971. Opening on New Year's Eve 1963, the George B. Murphy Homes was comprised of 15 acres of low-rise townhouses, playgrounds, and basketball courts centered on 4 14-story high-rises. The towers contained 1, 2, and 3-bedroom apartments with 758 units. In less than a decade, by the early 1970s, the housing project had already started to experience challenges with crime and drug dealing. By the 1990s, Murphy Homes became infamously known in Baltimore for crime and violence, gaining the name Murder Homes by some locals and media, as drug dealers fought over drug turf during the crack epidemic. In 1999, the project would be demolished after only 36 years in operation. The Upton community has been home to many legends and athletes, including Carmelo Anthony, who described life around the Murphy Homes, McCullough Homes, and the section referred to as the Bottom, in his book Where Tomorrows Aren't Promised. Founded in the early 2000s, the Upton Boxing Center has produced boxing stars such as Gervonta Tank Davis and Nia Killer B. Ellis under the guidance of trainer Calvin Ford, whose life inspired the character Dennis Cuddy Wise in the HBO series The Wire. Today, the Upton neighborhood continues to struggle. The neighborhood faces significant socioeconomic challenges, with the second highest violent crime rate, the second highest gun-related homicide rate, and the 4th highest overall juvenile arrest rate in Baltimore. Poverty is a major issue, as 58% of children in the area live in poverty, compared to 28% in Baltimore City and 10% in Maryland overall. Additionally, 53% of households have an income of less than $15,000, a stark contrast to the 20% citywide average. Educational attainment is also a concern, with 39% of adults lacking a high school diploma, compared to 23% across Baltimore City. In 2010, the neighborhood saw 696 child welfare referrals and 90 admissions to foster care, further highlighting the area's systemic challenges. The life expectancy is 62.9 years, compared to 71.8 years for Baltimore City overall and 83.1 years for Roland Park, one of Baltimore's wealthiest neighborhoods. Madison East End. Madison East End is a neighborhood near the center of East Baltimore. It is bounded by the neighborhood of Elwood Park to the south, Milton Montfort to the west, Biddle Street to the north, and Orangeville to the east. Madison East End crime rates are 219% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Madison East End are 480% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 14 chance of becoming a victim of crime.
Yeah, Deb, we're here on Northeast Avenue, and that's McElderry Street behind me. That's where all of this took place just around 3 o'clock, police say. It's the 3100 block of McElderry Street here in East Baltimore. They have revised their information. A 9-year-old girl was shot in the ankle here, as well as a 28-year-old man who was shot in his leg. He is expected to be okay, but a 20-year-old woman was also shot in the torso. She is in critical condition. All three of them were taken to the hospital for their injuries, but again, the 20-year-old woman is the one who is expected to be in the worst shape, critical condition then at the hospital. We don't have any information about what exactly happened today or what led up to the shooting as far as motive or anything like that. Police still have McElderry Street blocked off pretty far in both directions, as well as the side streets, as they do continue to investigate. And of course, we will bring you the very latest as we get it. But first, we want to hear from a neighbor who we spoke to, who is shocked that a 9-year-old little girl was shot.
It don't make no sense. The 9-year-old got shot. We can't send our kids, can't come outside and play because of all the shooting and the murder that we have. We had to keep our kids in the house. Don't have nothing to do.
The majority of Madison East End lies within the East Monument Historic District, notable for its historical ties to a large Czech-American, Bohemian immigrant community. Over time, the neighborhood transitioned to a predominantly African-American population. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, the Bohemian enclave north of Johns Hopkins Hospital, stretching along the Baltimore-New York Amtrak line to Frank C. Bochek Park, was known as Swamp Poodle. The park, nicknamed Clay Hill, was named after a swamp behind it that inspired the area's unique moniker. The neighborhood is one of the least expensive neighborhoods in the United States, with the median price of housing being less than $50,000 in certain areas. There is a brownfield, aka wasteland, in Madison East End due to environmental contamination caused by factories, refineries, and other businesses polluting the land and water. Trains used the area to dump coal, causing the land at the brownfield to become hard and blackened by oil. Perhaps because of this, the neighborhood faces serious health issues, with a life expectancy between 63 and 69 years. Madison East End suffers from high levels of cancer, HIV/AIDS, and homicide compared to other neighborhoods of Baltimore. Sandtown Winchester / Harlem Park. Sandtown Winchester, known locally as Sandtown, is a neighborhood in West Baltimore. It is located north of Lafayette Street, west of Fremont Avenue, south of North Avenue, and east of Monroe Street, covering an area of 72 square blocks. Located just south of Sandtown sits Harlem Park, another predominantly African-American neighborhood in West Baltimore. It is bounded by West Lafayette Street to the north, North Fulton Avenue to the west, including about 1 block west of Fulton, Route 40 to the south, and North Fremont Avenue to the east. The combined area of Sandtown Winchester and Harlem Park reported a crime rate of about 59.0 incidents per 1,000 residents. This encompasses serious offenses such as assault, murder, robbery, and burglary. For context, the national average for assault is 282.7 per 100,000 residents, while the area of Sandtown and Harlem Park reports around 980 per 100,000 residents. The neighborhood of Sandtown's name was derived from the trails of sand that dropped from wagons leaving town after filling up at the local sand and gravel quarry located on Monroe, Lawrence, and Pressman Streets, back in the days of horse-drawn wagons. In the second half of the 20th century, Sandtown experienced economic depression, housing abandonment, crime, and the effects of the Baltimore riot of 1968. The riots of 1968 was a period of civil unrest that lasted from April 6th to April 14th, 1968. The riots were directly correlated to the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King in Memphis, Tennessee. Following the 1968 riots, many residents fled Sandtown, businesses that were looted did not reopen, and drug use and violent crime became prevalent. Since 1970, the neighborhood's population has declined at a much faster rate than the rest of Baltimore. Despite redevelopment efforts starting in the late 1980s, the area remains marked by significant disrepair. Over a third of homes are abandoned, over 20% of working-age residents are unemployed, and nearly one-third of families live below the poverty line. With 3% of its population incarcerated, Sandtown has the highest incarceration rate of any neighborhood in Baltimore.
Now he's donning a new role in the city, developer. This block here of Sandtown Winchester is where Davis grew up. Now it's largely abandoned and filled with vacant homes. Davis recently bought up 2 buildings on Whittier Street. He hopes to be an example for others living in the neighborhood.
I feel as though we put more I don't want to say money, but more stuff in the city that the kids and people can do in the city. I feel as though the city will be better for, everybody. Everybody on this block, that once lived when I was here. Definitely a memory for sure. I will always, have a memory of them in my behind my, in my mind.
All right, here you go. 1, 2.
Sandtown is also infamously known for the death of Freddie Gray and subsequent riots which attracted national attention. On April 12, 2015, Freddie Carlos Gray Jr., a 25-year-old man, was arrested for possessing a knife. He would go on to suffer fatal spinal injuries while in police custody. Pending an investigation of the incident, 6 Baltimore police officers were suspended. Commissioner Anthony W. Batts reported that officers had not secured Gray inside the van while driving to the police station, contrary to a policy that had been put into effect 6 days prior to Gray's arrest. On April 19, 2015, his death was ruled a homicide. 6 officers were charged, with accusations ranging from second-degree depraved heart murder to manslaughter and reckless endangerment. In September 2015, it was decided that each officer would be tried separately. Officer William Porter's trial ended in a mistrial, while officers Nero, Goodson, and Rice were acquitted. Charges against the remaining officers were eventually dropped. The case, which highlighted police misconduct and systemic injustice, sparked widespread protests and unrest in Baltimore. Nearby Harlem Park also has a checkered past, being most known for the notorious case of the Harlem Park Three. The Harlem Park Three, Alfred Chestnut, Andrew Stewart, and Ransom Watkins, were 3 young students whose lives were forever altered when they were falsely accused of the 1983 murder of 9th grader DeWitt Duckett at Harlem Park Junior High School in Baltimore. Convicted on coerced witness statements and each sentenced to life in prison, they spent 36 years in prison before they were exonerated in 2019. In 2020, they sued the Baltimore Police Department, alleging witness coercion, and in 2023, they reached a record $48 million settlement, which was the largest in Baltimore's history. Cherry Hill. Cherry Hill is one of the southernmost neighborhoods in Baltimore. The neighborhood is bounded by Waterview Avenue to the north, Reedbird Avenue to the east, and Baltimore-Washington Parkway to the west, and the Baltimore city/county line to the south. Cherry Hill crime rates are 155% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Cherry Hill are 579% higher than the national average. In Cherry Hill, you have a 1 in 17 chance of becoming a victim of crime. In the early and mid-1900s, Cherry Hill was home to an encampment of Roma, commonly referred to as Gypsy. The Roma settled in Cherry Hill because it was undeveloped and on the outskirts of the city. Romani groups have historically lived in various neighborhoods, engaging in traditional trades such as fortune-telling, metalwork, and seasonal labor. During the 20th century, one of the highest concentration of gypsies was in Baltimore, but encampments were reported across Maryland. Caravans settled under the Hanover Street Bridge in Cherry Hill.
A popular Baltimore rapper is one of the city's latest homicide victims. This is a photo of the 24-year-old musician who goes by the name of Lonnie the Goat. He was found shot in a dead South Baltimore neighborhood yesterday. So far, no one has been arrested. Police are still working to figure out who killed him and why. WJZ is live in Cherry Hill, and Avajoy Burnett has an exclusive interview with the victim's mother, who spoke about her son through tears. Avajoy.
Hi, Nikki. This mom is extremely close to her son, and she also had to share him with many other people. Lonnie the Goat had millions of views on his YouTube channel. Tonight, fans and the family are distraught.
My family is not good at the moment. We're not good. It's my only son. They just don't know what they did to us.
Kia Bushrod's son, Lonnie the Goat, was one of Baltimore's up-and-coming rappers. But earlier this week, someone gunned him down in South Baltimore's Cherry Hill neighborhood.
I hope whoever had anything to do with this, you reap what you sow. Because you don't know how bad you hurt my family.
Baltimore police got the call Tuesday morning, and first responders found his body between two row homes at a spot that's a popular shortcut. People who live on Booker Drive say they heard a single gunshot the night before. The 24-year-old, whose official name is Delon Bushrod Jr., has millions of views on his YouTube channel. He also had a strong following among young people. Videos on social media showed him visiting and performing at Baltimore schools. In one post, he said that's what motivated him, and it's only right to be a positive image to the youth.
It don't matter where I'm at, I'm yipping anywhere. I done my 990s out when I was at work.
His mother said she loves his music and will have to watch the videos and listen to Lonnie the Goat tracks now that he's gone.
I'm just angry that, you know, his life has been taken from us. We will truly miss him. You know, talking to my son every single day, it's just going to feel crazy not speaking to him at all.
Cherry Hill is a historically significant neighborhood with a rich cultural background. It was developed in the 1940s as a planned African American community in response to housing segregation and overcrowding in other parts of Baltimore. The neighborhood was intended to provide better living conditions for black residents who were often restricted from moving into other areas of the city due to discriminatory housing policies. Today, Cherry Hill is home to Baltimore's largest public housing project, Cherry Hill Homes, with over 1,000 units, private homes, and several other low-income apartments throughout the community. Middle East. Middle East is a neighborhood in the heart of East Baltimore. Bounded by East Middle Street to the north, North Broadway to the west, North Patterson Park Avenue to the east, and East Fayette Street to the south. Middle East crime rates are 253% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Middle East are 684% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 13 chance of becoming a victim of crime. Middle East shares much of its history and Czech background with nearby Madison East End and Berea. The neighborhood formerly had a white working-class Czech-American majority and is home to St. Wenceslaus Church, a historically Czech parish that is now majority African-American. The Middle East neighborhood and surrounding areas were then known collectively as Little Bohemia. By 1969, the Czech-American immigrant community in what is now the Middle East neighborhood largely consisted of aging homeowners living alongside more recently arrived African-American residents. However, many older white Czech Americans held racist attitudes toward their black neighbors. As a reporter for the Baltimore Sun observed, the older people of Bohemian extraction still live in the houses they own, but they share the neighborhood with black people whom they do not seem to appreciate or understand. This generation marked the final large presence of Czech Americans in Little Bohemia as the neighborhood transitioned to a predominantly African American community by the 1970s and 1980s.
Hello, I'm Lynn Bowie. We want to welcome all of you who are streaming this noon. And we're following breaking news out of East Baltimore, where police are on the scene of a triple shooting. WJZ is live near Ashland and Broadway. Investigator Mike Halgren updates us on this situation. Mike.
Lynn, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm on the median on Broadway, not far from the Johns Hopkins Hospital campus. Now, we want to show you two things here. All the bullet markers that you can still see on Broadway right here. We know that the victims were 32, 34, and 37 years old, and they had non-life-threatening wounds. The other thing we want to show you is a security tower right in the middle of Broadway that Hopkins has up. We understand there was an off-duty Baltimore City police officer who was working security from Hopkins who heard the whole thing, reported it to dispatch. Police were able to get here quickly. Again, a triple shooting in the middle of the day here on Broadway. Let's go to some video we shot earlier today. Right now, we know that police are still searching for a suspect or suspects in the area. No word of any arrests. We know Commissioner Harrison was out here earlier. He did not make any statements, but again, police did confirm the ages of those victims. We understand that two of the victims were men. One of the victims was a woman who was grazed by a bullet. Again, we are still waiting to get more information and on word of any arrests here, but an active scene at Broadway remains closed down at Ashland if you're heading toward Johns Hopkins hospitals.
Another issue this community faced was lead poisoning, a pervasive issue affecting poor and black youth in Baltimore is known to impair cognitive function, increase aggression, and perpetuate the cycle of poverty reinforced by racist policies such as redlining. A 2016 report by the Annie E. Casey Foundation links residents' concerns about lead poisoning to a controversial study conducted by the Bloomberg School of Public Health and the Kennedy Krieger Institute. In 2000, researchers applied fertilizer made from human and industrial waste to the lawns of several homes in East Baltimore. Although Hopkins researchers claimed the fertilizer effectively reduced lead levels and stated that the community had been adequately informed, many activists and lawmakers criticized the study, questioning whether it had exploited poor black families. In the 90s and early 2000s, Middle East served as a filming location for multiple films and shows including the Baltimore-based HBO drama The Wire. It also featured in scenes from the television series Homicide, Life on the Street, and the 1991 film Homicide starring Joe Mantegna. Between 1990 and 2000, the population of the Middle East community decreased by 45%, the steepest decline among all areas in Baltimore. By 2001, the rate of abandoned houses in East Baltimore was 13%, but in the Middle East neighborhood, it soared to as high as 80%, with only 3 out of 10 homes occupied. Residents of Middle East faced some of the worst health indicators in the United States, and local public schools reported that more than 70% of enrolled children qualified for federally assisted free or reduced price school meals. Educational attainment was also a significant challenge, with 49% of Middle East residents lacking a high school diploma, compared to 25% in Baltimore City overall. Additionally, the average household income in Middle East was just $29,000, far below Baltimore's citywide average of $55,000. Middle East is the site of ongoing and extensive gentrification, and many buildings have been leveled to make way for the expansion of the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. In 2002, the East Baltimore Development Initiative, EBDI, was founded, becoming one of the most aggressive and ambitious initiates for urban redevelopment in recent American history. The Middle East neighborhood has now been rebranded as Eager Park in attempts to start fresh and disconnect from a rather controversial history.